The Pokemon XY anime, Mega Evolutions, Fairy Pokemon, Great Animation, and Ship Mania. Ash Ketchum in the Pokemon XY anime. An older look, maturity, strong battle skills, and social status. There's no doubt that XY Ash is regarded as the top Ash by many fans, but why exactly is this iteration of Ash so popular both inside and outside of the anime? Today we will get to the bottom of this question. XY, XY Kalos Quest, and XYZ comprise a very popular segment of the Pokemon anime. The story was solid, the animation and battles were unparalleled at that point, and it set fire to the abhorrent filler that bogged Best Wishes down. And perhaps more than anything, XY Ash was very well received by viewers. Today, we are going to explore exactly why he was such a big hit. And in order to do so, we will delve into the aesthetics, the character, and the battle skills of XY Ash. It'll be a fun ride. But before we jump in, let us know, who is your favorite Ash? Now that you've dropped a comment, TM28 that like button for the YouTube algorithm, and let's jump right in. One of the most obvious elements of XY Ash's appeal is the clear departure of his design from all previous Ash designs in the anime. In short, he looked more mature and cool in XY than he did at any point in the original series through Best Wishes. And in Long, well, firstly, the Treehouse TV color palette that defined previous generations was toned down into a simpler and sleeker red, blue, white, and black color scheme. The red accents on his high tops, gloves, and hat, they complement the neutral tones of the outfit really well without taking over, and there's no vomit green or weird stripes this time. It's well put together, and it allows you to actually focus on his movements and expressions, rather than having your eyes assaulted by a kaleidoscope in every frame of every episode. Additionally, his eyes were more expressive than ever before, bringing in the size and coloration from Best Wishes, but enhancing the inward contour at the base of his eyes so that finally his face didn't look like the side of a church. The smaller bolts on the side of his cheeks further alter the balance of his face in a way that gives more weight to his eyes, and the focus shift comes through in spades as Ash competes in the anime's wonderfully animated battle scenes. But perhaps most importantly, the way we perceive Ash's frame and stature is drastically different in XY. Originally, Ash was quite boxy, angular, and runty looking, and he maintained this appearance for years until XY finally gave him more definition and made him much taller looking. This was achieved by making his pants and top fit more snugly to his body, which makes him appear taller than he is, and also gives him a more natural body shape since we can finally see the distinct outline of his thighs, calves, and so on. As a result, he looks older and more athletic, whereas in older shows he looked like a little kid wearing hand-me-down clothes. Not that there's anything wrong with that. This illusion of height and maturity is further enhanced by his visible, long neck and a longer head that's more rectangular than squarish. Furthermore, he actually is taller or comparable in height to other central characters in the anime, whereas in older shows, his character was always scaled, such that he pretty much looked like a dwarf compared to his companions and any adult characters. Here, he's about the same height as Serena and Clement, and he towers above new trainers like Sawyer and Myvine. This ultimately gives him a larger presence relative to how he looked with Brock, Tracy, or Silent, making him look like the little bro in every shot. The color scheme, the face, the build, everything about the design simply exudes maturity and coolness relative to prior designs, and thus XY Ash's design really resonated with those who wanted Ash to appear a little more grown up for a very long time. It was a big improvement over previous designs in the eyes of many fans, and as a result, when Sun and Moon took a hard left on that design, it was deeply polarizing. Alolan Ash was highly stylized, altogether abandoned the hard lines and angularity that gave XY Ash his toughness, turned the eye size down a couple notches, and on the whole, went for this very fun, exaggerated look, which allowed the animators to really amplify his expressiveness in a way that wouldn't have really worked with the other styles, but simultaneously burned any hope of Ash progressing along this path of maturity straight to the ground. I personally enjoyed Ash's redesign, and the flatter color palette in the context of the Sun Moon anime but it's true that it certainly didn't hold a candle to the badassery of XY's Ash design. The new anime steps away from the ultra-deformed style of Sun and Moon and rolls us back to something halfway between Sun and Moon and XY, but it retains a lot of the youthfulness and playfulness of Alolan Ash, and of course, he still looks very young, leaving fans who are invested in the XY look feeling hungry for something that may never be served. But looks aren't everything, and something else that played a big role in defining XY Ash as the peak Ash was his character. Over the course of the Pokemon anime, each series has brought us an Ash with a different personality. There have been minor evolutions in maturity and character tributes, like with Ash's move from the original series into the Orange League and Johto segments, and even complete devolutions, like when we transitioned from badass Diamond and Pearl Ash to the embarrassing Best Wishes Ash. In the original series, Ash was this inexperienced, goofy character who had a knack for battling but acted quite childish and even arrogant at times. The personality was a good fit for his age and lack of experience, and his snarky remarks to Misty and others were always hilarious. But from the Indigo League on, he would continue to mature over the run of the anime until he became the skilled and quite likable protagonist of Diamond and Pearl, before everything was totally trashed in Best Wishes. Anyone who'd followed Diamond and Pearl into the Best Wishes segment of the anime was left wondering what exactly had happened to turn Ash into such an incompetent and unlikable little bidoof. Maybe he'd taken a few too many logs to the head, or maybe it was simply a way of doing a soft reset to keep the young fans invested in Ash's growth. Either way, TM28 the like button if you loved the Diamond and Pearl Ash and thought, what the fennekin, when you saw Ash get schooled by Trip Snivy in Best Wishes. How embarrassing. Best Wishes was honestly quite disappointing in many ways, but then XY came along. And XY brought us an Ash who was still in many ways a lovable goof as always, but also a badass who could get stuff done. He was mature and he was level-headed both on the pitch and off the pitch. Of course, some fans have called him a bit of a Mary Sue due to his general lack of flaws, but even so, his high proficiency as a trainer and overall competence in life is something that you'd expect from a guy who's plowed through so many different regions and had so many different experiences on his journey. And in my opinion, the Mary Sue-ness actually gave him a cool factor that was quite enjoyable in its own right, as we followed Ash along his adventure while also exploring the paths of the characters around him. And having a competent, cool, powerful Ash was especially important following Best Wishes, which seriously irked fans who wanted to see a continuation of the compelling and strategically excellent Ash that we had in Diamond and Pearl, and who had to endure it as that dream slipped away like an oiled pig. Fortunately, XY came back and it cracked off a home run for fans. XY Ash was cool, and XY Ash was an inspiration both to us as viewers and also to the characters around him as a fellow trainer and friend. Something that clearly separates XY Ash from most other Ashes is that he truly had the respect of the people around him. His passion for battling motivated younger trainers like Bonnie and Sawyer, and his zeal for pushing his own limits even ignited a spark of excitement in seasoned trainers like Alain. People in Kalos and people watching the anime from outside were singing a lot of praise for him, and rightly so. XY Ash was focused, driven, and dead set on achieving his goals like a proper bad man. And I described this in other videos, but another element of XY that greatly altered the character dynamics and the viewer's perception of Ash was Serena. Whether or not you buy into Amore shipping is irrelevant, because quite simply having the main female lead take on the role of a supportive character who idolizes Ash as opposed to a scathing best friend type character like Misty absolutely boosted Ash's credibility as a hero, ramped up his Chad factor, and made him larger than life. Dawn and Ash's relationship in Diamond and Pearl mirrored this dynamic to some extent, but Serena took that to the next level with the blatant romantic intrigue, which a lot of fans clearly enjoyed. And that was XY Ash, a confident, driven, high-performing badass who had the admiration of the people around him. Following XY, Sun and Moon pulled a full reversal and gave us an Ash who was very immature, childish, and laid back, and although that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, It certainly did fit the tone of the anime, and there was a lot to enjoy in Sun and Moon if you were willing to accept the differences that made it quite unique. And in the new series, Go's admiration of Ash harkens back to his near celebrity status in the XY days, but we haven't seen the same level of admiration for him from such a multitude of characters as XY Ash had received. Fans loved seeing a cool and calm Ash, and he was indeed a beast. We've explored why Ash in XY is so popular aesthetically and in terms of his character, but we couldn't wrap this discussion up without at least touching on his battle skills. Ash showed us significant progress from the original series through Diamond and Pearl, and although he got zapped back to square one in Best Wishes, he came back again as a proficient bad man in XY. We could explore his Pokemon battles in XY relative to those in other series from a myriad of angles, but I suppose we should first address the elephant in the room, Alain. Alain, and the fact that Ash lost to Alain in the finals of the Kalos League. Ash, at the arguable peak of his career, pushed it all the way to the final match of the Kalos League with a powerful team and lost. Ash's loss to Alain really shook people because this was an Ash that fans were perhaps more invested in than ever, as it was the first time he'd been portrayed as such a clean-cut, badass trainer, and it really seemed like he had what it took to snag the #1 spot in the Kalos League. But in the end, Alain was simply the superior trainer. But even so, Ash pushed his capabilities to the max, and he made much fewer sloppy mistakes than he had in notable losses in other series of the anime. And a loss to a great trainer like Alain hardly undermines his overall prowess as a trainer, which was put on full display in XY, XY Kalos League, and XYZ. This could be a full video in and of itself because Ash in XY was a real ace trainer with a strong team, but perhaps the biggest difference between XY Ash and previous Ash iterations when it comes to battling was in the speed of his decision making and strategy pivots. For instance, quickly working around tricky situations caused by Clement's electric terrain in their battle, getting Pikachu to keep track of time to keep tabs on future sight in the Olympia Gym battle, countering Tyranitar's Sand Stream ability by having Pikachu use Iron Tail in the river to splash water across the battlefield, and then using that same water to boost the power of his Thunderbolt in the Kalos League final, dispelling Sleep Powder's effect by having Pikachu use Electro Ball on itself in the Viola Gym battle, or harnessing the momentum of Lucario's Aura Sphere, as he'd done with his Draco Meteor climb in the Silage Gym battle, in order to boost Pikachu high into the air for a crushing Iron Tail to tip the scale against Serena. All in all, he seemed more aware of the big picture in XY, reacted to nasty surprises smoothly, and turned the environment to his advantage time and time again. He was a quick thinker, level-headed, and able to adapt and churn out new strategies on the fly. Of course, I feel like people are going to comment on this, so I have to mention that he was definitely at a high in Diamond and Pearl with a great set of strategies and some big wins. However, in that series, he often got a little bit too deeply locked into his strategy sets and took too long to structure and execute counter strategies when things weren't going his way. For instance, when he nearly got bum-rushed by Conway's Dusknoir's Trick Room before finally taking it down with Gibble, or in his match with Paul where he accidentally had Pikachu use Volt Tackle against Electivire, which powered up Electivire's Motor Drive, resulting in absolute butt destruction, or when he was trying to take out Paul's Drapion's Toxic Spikes and ended up going through Weasel, Staraptor, and Torterra, and getting Gliscor poisoned as well before finally realizing he could burn them up using Infernape's Flare Blitz. Comparing this to his quick formulation of a strategy to counter Tyranitar in the Kalos League final, and I think it illustrates a bit of a gap between Diamond and Pearl Ash and XY Ash in terms of their ability to think on their feet and come up with a quick and effective counter strategy. This isn't to knock on Diamond and Pearl Ash too much though. He always had his eye on tight matchups and switched Pokemon in and out regularly to create advantages. It just felt like Ash in XY was a little more robust to the unexpected. And I think that this quick thinking paired with overall great performance made Ash the ultimate Ash in terms of his battling skills and also the most fun to watch. To extend a few more kind words to Diamond and Pearl Ash though, yes, Tobias was absolutely ridiculous. So, Ash in Pokemon XY. An expressive Ash with a mature design, a level-headed Ash with borderline celebrity status in Kalos, a quick-thinking Ash with an adaptable battle plan. It's little wonder why XY Ash has remained so popular with fans long after the final episode of XYZ drew to a close, as he had so many qualities that fans who have been invested in the anime for years and years were desperately craving to see. XY Ash delivered on those cravings, and represented Ash's peak in terms of maturity and ability as a trainer. This was peak Ash in terms of the maturity of his appearance, the maturity of his character, and the maturity of his battling skills. Of course, after XYZ wrapped up, he was again devolved into a childish gag character in Sun and Moon, and although his battle skills have improved again in the 2019 Pocket Monsters anime, the mature Ash that we loved in XY seems as though he is unlikely to make a comeback. So, will we ever get an Ash who resonates with fans like XY Ash did? I don't know, but what do you think? And did you enjoy the XY anime? And most importantly, who do you think is the best Ash? Let's chat.